Well, welcome. I will now call the September 19, 2019 City of Casper Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. I'd remind commissioners to please turn your mics on if you haven't already. And I would note that if there are planning and zoning agendas and policies out on the table as you enter the room, if you haven't already picked it up or wish to have them. Note for the record that we have two commissioners not in attendance tonight. Vice Chairman Hine and Commissioner Ani will not be here, so we've got five. That we do have a quorum. I'll also note for the record we have Craig Collins and Dee Hardy with the Planning and Zoning Commission staff, and Wallace Trembeth with the City Attorney's Office. We have Liz Becker, our Community Development Director, in the audience. Our City Council liaison Bob Hopkins, and also Councilman Bates. So welcome, and welcome to the rest of you. I would entertain a motion for approval of the August 15, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes.
So approved.
Moved by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Wingett. Or any corrections or additions? Hearing none, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, the motion passes.
Okay, we have two items on the public docket tonight, PLN 1925Z and PLN 1926Z, both relating to zone changes. I would note for the record that it takes 4 affirmative votes to carry any motion, not just a majority of the commission members present. Anything less than 4 votes is to be considered a denial. The applicants can postpone their public hearing until next month in anticipation of more planning and zoning members being present if they so desire. Starting off with PLN 1925Z is a petition for a zone change of a 2.8 acre portion of Tract 4, North Platte River Park Addition, generally located at the corner of Events Drive and North Poplar Street, north of Wilkins Way, from Park Historic to C4 Highway Business, the applicant being East Elkhorn Ranch, LLC. Do we have a staff report, Mr. Collins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start, I just want to make sure that we didn't have any members of the commission that had a conflict on this issue. I want to give everybody an opportunity now to bow out before I start.
I personally had no conflict that I am aware of.
Okay, Mr. Davis?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Also, since there's only 5 of you tonight, I don't know if we want to ask the applicant whether they want to proceed before we start into the staff report.
We can certainly do that. Is there any representatives from East Elkhorn Ranch LLC that would wish to either proceed or postpone it till we have a full commission?
Yes, Tasma Powers on behalf of Home Ranch Office, which is the management company for East Elkhorn Ranch. I guess it's not clear to me if Mr. Davis had a conflict.
I believe he said he did not have a conflict.
Can we reserve our right to petition or to move the petition after we hear the presentation?
Mr. City Attorney, I would ask your opinion on that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm unsure of the question.
She was asking if she could reserve the right to ask for a deferral until she heard more of the issues in the presentation and the arguments for and against.
That's completely your call, Mr. Chairman and Commission.
Okay. I think if you wish to have it postponed, I would think it would be preferable to do it now rather than after everybody talks. So I think if you decide to go ahead, we'll go ahead. If you want to postpone it, we'll act on that right now.
Okay, let me check. We're fine with proceeding.
Okay, we'll move ahead. With that, I think we're ready for a staff report, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. East Elkhorn Ranch LLC has applied for zoning change of a 2.8 acre parcel of property located at the corner of Events Drive and North Poplar Street, directly east of the Central Wyoming Counseling Center property. The subject property is currently zoned PH, Park Historic, and the applicants have requested that it be rezoned to C4 Highway Business. The property is currently undeveloped. This property was acquired by the applicant from the city several years ago in a land trade. In that the property is no longer under city ownership, the park historic zoning of the property is no longer appropriate and hinders the future development of the property. Surrounding zoning in the area includes C4 highway business to the south and PH park historic on all other sides. According to the zone change application submitted by the applicant, upon approval of the rezoning, the lot will be listed for sale. Section 1712-170 of the municipal code requires that staff review zoning applications in context of the approved comprehensive land use plan and provide a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council as to how the zone change is either supported or not supported. Generation Casper Comprehensive Plan provides a future land use plan, which is found in Chapter 4 on page 4-26. The future land use plan is an illustrative plan that identifies the physical distribution of land uses and forms the basis for future zoning and land use regulations. The subject property is located in a transition area between the area to the south designated as community center and the area to the north, which is designated as parks and open space. Page 4-33 of the plan provides general characteristics of areas designated as community centers. Primary land uses include retail, trade, service uses, and offices with supporting multifamily residential. Chapter 3 of the plan provides principles and goals. Principles and goals that may be applicable to the zone change request have been included in your staff report. And also mentioned that land uses that are allowed in the C4 zoning district have also been included in your staff report. I won't go through all those. Mr. Chairman, I have 3 letters of opposition to this, which have been included for the Commission's view, and I have 8 exhibits to enter into the record. A is the petition for a zone change. B, vicinity map. C, public notice sent to the Star Tribune. D, notice of public hearing sent to property owners. E, public comment from Kent Katz, 1441 Wilkins Circle. F, public comment from Kevin Hazucha, 1430 Wilkins Circle. G, public comment from Anita Dodds, 1421 Wilkins Circle. And H, memo to the chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That concludes staff's report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. And exhibits A through H, including the letters of opposition, are accepted for the record. I now declare the public hearing open for consideration of case PLN 1925Z. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, the rules of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals who address the commission to approach the lectern, identify yourself, and please state your address. Would the person or persons representing case PLN 1925Z please come forward and explain the application?
Hello, my name is Michelle Thompson, 721 La Hacienda, Casper. As stated in the staff report, this piece of land was acquired in 2015 by East Elkhorn Ranch as part of an extensive land swap between East Elkhorn Ranch and the city of Casper. Susie McMurray negotiated this to help get the biathlon over to city ownership for that. There was a slight donation there as well. And this 2.8 acres that East Elkhorn Ranch received in return, as stated, was zoned Park Historic because it was previously owned by the city of Casper. At the time of the acquisition, we weren't forward thinking of asking for a zoning change at that time, but hindsight, we should have asked at the time of the acquisition for that to be a condition of the land swap. Here we are now, though, asking for it. The C4 zoning, which is highway business, was requested because that is the same zoning that all of the neighboring properties are. So to the north and to the east is Park Historic, property still owned by the city of Casper. Everything to the south, which is private owned land, is all zoned C4. Currently, the Park Historic zoning is inhibiting our ability to sell the property. Right now, with it being zoned Park Historic, we're kind of at an 80% deficit of our potential for our fair market value. So we are hoping to be able to get that changed to C4 so that we can put it on the market for sale. There are a couple of oppositions that were included in your packets from what I understand. The two letters of opposition that I reviewed had concerns of a truck stop being put into that property. I'm not really sure where the truck stop came in. They cited it as maybe being a good location for a truck stop, which maybe could be true, but in looking at truck stops throughout Casper, there are 3 truck stops, Flying J, Ghost Town, and Hat 6. Flying J, that we know is one of the smaller truck stops. It's on 4.15 acres of land. The property that we own is only 2.8 acres. I think everyone could see that that would be much too small for a truck stop. So I don't really think that a truck stop would be a viable use for this property. I think the truck stop and the diesel fumes and the interference with the fresh air in the operating rooms of gastroenterologist associates was one of the concerns. But like I said, I don't think a truck stop is even a viable option for this property. Another concern of the opposition letters was that the potential establishments would likely increase the likelihood of drug trafficking at a truck stop. I don't think that a truck stop is, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous if you couldn't tell. I don't think a truck stop is something that could fit there, so therefore I don't think that there's any likelihood of there being an increase to drug trafficking. The Central Wyoming Counseling Center did also state that they were concerned that some of their patients who are recovering from substance abuse might be impacted by some establishments that did have drug trafficking, like the truck stop. But I would like to point out that those patients are also driving past a brewery on the way to the counseling center. So C4 has a lot of different uses. It's expansive, I understand that. And there are a lot of uses for C4 that are allowed, and we're not asking for any special treatment. We are just asking to be treated the same as the neighboring properties that are all surrounding us. We thought it was kind of interesting that the C4 zoning wasn't an issue for any of these private business owners when they chose to build their facilities in this area. It just now is suddenly an issue when we're trying to get our zoning changed so that we can put the property on the market for sale. So we're respectfully requesting that the commission grant our request to rezone to C4 and treat our property the same as all of our neighboring properties and allow our asset to recognize its fair market value.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Thompson from the commissioners?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Wingeter.
I understand it's currently for sale, and I understand you're trying to change it, make it more marketable. But have you had any interest in what kind of business? Has there been any talk about any particular kind of business?
Actually, we did have one person reach out to our broker that has it listed for sale, our real estate agent that has it listed. And they actually did want to put a medical facility in there, which would be similar to the other uses in the media area. We would love to market it towards medical. That is our intent. But of course, as you know, when you put something on the market, you just get whoever's interested. But that was the one interest that we do have. Of course, we cannot sell to them until it gets rezoned.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I
Commissioner
have a
Davis.
couple questions for you. You'd identified the city owns the land to the east, which is two major structures that we own there, like the event center, and we own the museum there, but was on city's property.
Right.
And what preservation have you made to keep your land from being developed as a non-compatible use to the cities? And secondly, have you got a set of covenants that go with it that would subsidize or back up what you said you were going to put in there?
Well, we don't actually have any intention of putting anything in there itself. I would have to defer to if there were any covenants or restrictions in the area itself, which I do not believe that there are any restrictions, other than the restrictions for the acceptable use of the property itself, which at this time is Park Historic. The land is currently undeveloped. We haven't developed the land at all, so it's in its natural state as what it was when we acquired the property back in 2015. And I would just have to defer to the future purchasers, the future owners of the property to follow the rules and the acceptable uses as permitted by the zoning commission.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Thompson from the commission? Thank you. As required by state law, we'll invite people to comment in favor of or in opposition to all public hearings. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case PLN 1925Z? Hearing none, is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to case PLN 1925Z? Please come forward.
My name is Kent Katz. I live at 991 Stafford, and I am a physician, owner, partner for Gastroenterology Associates, which is in the circle that was on the screen just a few minutes ago. I have spoken to my partners, I've spoken to our neighbors, and we would like to speak in opposition to this. When we've got your flyer, the first thing we do is go take a look and see what does C4 allow. Truck stops was a big issue. If it's too small, I have no idea. I don't run truck stops. But there are other things there that are of some concern. Pawn shops, sexually oriented businesses, and others that, you know, would make us concerned, particularly to the counseling center. In my discussions with them, they were worried that people are going to look out their window and see that that was where all their drug deals went down. And so that would be a very negative impact on them and on their patients. If anything else is causing a lot of noise or a lot of fumes, whatever C4 allows, that could, as I stated in my letter, really limit our ability to practice medicine. And that's a significant concern not only to me as a businessman, but I think to the medical community, because there's only so many facilities that can accommodate this. In terms of response to the inquiry to that property, that was actually my corporation that asked if we could look at the land. We were looking to expand. So yeah, we'd love to have a medical facility there. We are not opposed to development of that property. We just think that C4 is a little too broad. As I stated in my letter, we and my neighbors would welcome a C3 study, not only for them, but also for our area. This area has sort of identified itself as a professional park, if you will. We have financial institutions, we have a counseling center, an inpatient hospital, and 2 surgical centers. We want to keep that setting, whatever goes in there, appropriate to that. And C4, we feel, is just a little too broad. There are a lot of businesses that we would welcome there. But as I said, we just thought that the C4 was a little too broad and would like to see it narrowed down to C3, and to our neighbors as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Katz from the commission?
What do I do with this?
I'll take it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I have one.
Commissioner
Doctor, you
Winger.
mentioned those other businesses. There's a lot of businesses that you wouldn't mind going up there?
Absolutely not. If they wanna-
So, give us a couple ideas, like an office building,
Certainly office.
insurance.
Insurance, we'd welcome hotels, we'd welcome restaurants, we'd welcome, things that are gonna be more family-oriented, if you will, certainly professional things that enhance the appearance and flow and professional demeanor of the area. If I look at C3, let me just, bed and breakfast, homestay, business, general referral clubs, lodges, dance studios, daycare, adult daycare, family care, drugstores, government office building, grocery stores, group homes, multi-story apartment buildings, hotels, motels, mortuaries, well, that may be a little strange, general office buildings, medical buildings, parks, playgrounds, personal services, I'm not exactly sure what that is, pharmacies, printing, newspapers, restaurants, cafes, retail business, sundry and specialty shops, where, neighborhood assembly uses, grocery stores, church, those are all in C3 that we would welcome. My fear is if it's C4, it's just too broad and could damage detract from the area, both in terms of just appearance, but more specifically in terms of our ability to conduct business.
Any other questions for Dr. Katz from the commission?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to case PLN 1925Z? Dee, could I ask a favor of you, if you can, could you put up on the screen the next image that shows the actual existing zoning? Is that, yes, that one, thank you, just so we kind of have something to look at. There being no others to speak for and against this case, I now declare the public hearing closed and will entertain a motion to approve and forward to council with a due pass recommendation to deny or to table case PLN 1925Z.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner
May
Davis.
I ask for one clarification?
Yes.
I asked if you had any covenants on the property, and was your answer no, you don't have any?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a motion for action?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Wingeter.
If I may, I'll make a motion that we, for denial. I'm kind of concerned about, even though truck stop, it's not big enough for a truck stop, but you could put tire stores up there or a lumber yard or something like that, all kinds of activity here, anything to do with automobiles or anything like that. Even, there's several of them, and I'm all for business, but I'd like to see, in my own personal opinion, I think that's more of a either medical zone or insurance office or some kind of office building or something like that. So I'd make a motion for deny.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interrupt for
Oh,
just
did
a
I
minute.
mess up?
If we could frame our motions in terms of motions to approve, that would be, even for purposes of
Okay.
discussion, that would be incredibly helpful. And the reason is your rules require affirmative votes to pass something. If we have motions to deny, but you only get 2 or 3 votes, we don't know what that means in terms of affirmative votes. So if that could be reframed in terms of approval, and then if you're not in favor of it, you can vote against it, that would be helpful.
Understood. With that clarification, would you be willing to withdraw your motion for denial and to restate it?
I will withdraw. No,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? I have a
Commissioner
question for
Fetz.
staff. In light of the controversy here, is there another zoning code that would maybe fall in between that would allow for commercial development, but perhaps deny some of these that are considered less desirable?
Mr. Chairman, there's several that I think the neighbors would be happier with. However, those don't exist in the immediate area. C4 exists, and I think that's why we went with C4. The only thing I would mention is C3 is really a downtown district. However, C2 or a HM or an OB, office business, hospital medical, C2 general business, but a lot of those uses that Commissioner Wingerter mentioned as being objectionable are still allowed in those zoning districts as far as automobile type uses. So maybe large truck stops and things like that would not be allowed. However, if the applicants, if the neighbors are okay with C3, I would think they'd be okay with C2, HM, or office business. However, if that's a direction we need to go, I guess I would recommend that we would have to continue and allow us to re-notify all the neighbors so they had time to ponder that before it being sprung on them at the last minute.
Okay, and I've got a couple of comments too, but I'm going to wait and hold that off to see if we have a motion, and then I'll bring those up at the discussion form of a motion. So what I would encourage from the commission would be a motion for approval, possibly for discussion purposes, and then we could discuss it, the pros and cons of that. So would there be a motion for approval of the application for discussion purposes?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Frank.
I would make such a motion.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Frank. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Davis. First, directed to staff. We have to, the area has to be, the zoning has to change because it cannot remain park historic since it's privately owned. Am I correct in that?
Mr. Chairman, the zoning could remain as park historic.
It could remain park historic even though it,
What the applicant can do with it.
okay,
There's no reason that it can't stay that way.
okay, that, I just needed that clarified. The other issue that I've got is I think we as the commissioners need to be cautious of is the appearance of a spot zoning where we're zoning an area just for a specific reason as opposed to general land usage and how it fits in with the rest of the immediate area. And the one thing that I'm looking at is the present zoning. You know, I can appreciate the concerns of the the protestants, those that are in opposition, but I can't see where that would be a concern when you've got essentially the immediate area to the south already being C4. And I think that with any zoning issue, there's going to be potential pros and potential cons as to what may or may not go in there. But from a zoning perspective and from the land usage and the comprehensive use plan, to me it would be inappropriate not to continue with the C4 zone to the immediate north. As I'm looking at the map and as I understand the area and the potential uses, it just seems like it would fit in with the rest of the area if it were continued to, it was expanded as part of the C4 zone that we see to the immediate south.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to explain, I anticipated that coming up, so I printed out the spot zoning information for everyone to review, whether it would or would not fit the definition of a spot zone.
Okay. Did you get one, Chuck?
Yes, you did.
I need to pass them down that way.
Mr. Chairman, it may be helpful to have a definition that you have read into the record so that it's clear what you're looking at.
Okay, for the record, staff has handed out to the commission the definition of spot zoning, and I'll read that verbatim. Spot zoning means the singling out of a particular property or small groups of properties for different treatment from that accorded to similar surrounding land, which is contrary to the general pattern of zoning in the surrounding geographic area and is not in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and which is designed solely for the economic benefit of the owner of the property receiving special treatment. So with that, even though that the owner of the property is not the one requesting that the application be denied, I think you could infer that they would also benefit, the surrounding ownerships could benefit from whatever decision comes out of this commission. So with that, further comments or discussion relating to the motion to approve the application to change to C4? Hearing none, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With Commissioners Davis, Pfaff, and Wingeter voting no, and Commissioner King and Frank voting yes, the motion is denied.
Mr. Chairman, in the case of zoning, a denial ends with the Planning and Zoning Commission unless the applicant appeals per the requirements of the municipal code. I believe it's 10 days they have to appeal that decision to council.
And that would go straight to council with that. They would take their
appeal.
issue straight to council.
Right, but however, if they don't appeal it, it ends here.
Okay. So with that, I would ask the applicants if you understand that and that you realize you do have a next level to pursue with that. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Trinidad, is there any deference to the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission in that appeal? Or is it de novo?
Ms. Powers, I don't have the statute in front of me. I believe it's de novo, but I can look that up for you tomorrow.
I think it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I now move to the second item on our public agenda. Again, I advise the applicant it takes 4 affirmative votes to carry any motion, not just a majority of those commission members present. Anything less than 4 votes is a denial. The applicants can postpone their public hearing until next month in anticipation of more planning commission members being present if they so desire. PLN 1926Z is a petition for a zone change of a 1.665 acres generally located at the northwest corner of Southwest Wyoming Boulevard and South Kaufman Avenue, described as Tract A, Garden Creek Square Addition, from planned unit development to general business C2, the applicant being Housing Solutions LLC and JVC LLC. Do we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application has been received for a requested zoning classification change of a 1.65 acre parcel located at the northwest corner of Southwest Wyoming Boulevard and South Kaufman Avenue. The property is currently undeveloped and is zoned PUD, planned unit development. The applicants have requested that the property be rezoned to C2 in anticipation of the development of a senior multifamily residential project consisting of a total of 49 units. The property surrounding the subject parcel is zoned PUD to the north and west, and R4 high-density residential to the east, and R1 residential estate to the south. The subject property is part of a project that was approved in 1999 called Garden Creek Plaza. The original plan for Garden Creek Plaza was for the development of a multi-tenant retail building and 18 twin homes. The entire project encompassed approximately 7.5 acres, and obviously the project never moved forward. The original owner developer is now selling off 1.65 acres of the PUD, which, as stated above, is approved for tax credits for the development of 49 senior residential units. The original plan for the area expired after the property remained undeveloped for 3 years following approval. In that the PUD is now being broken up and sold or developed in separate parcels, staff suggested that the applicants apply for a zone change to C2, general business, which would allow the project by right as a permitted use and would expedite and simplify the development and review process for the applicants. Because of the density of the proposed multifamily project, it will ultimately require review and approval of the site plan by the Planning and Zoning Commission. As the property is currently zoned, the approval of the project would require City Council approval after review of the project by Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff does not support development of the property as a planned unit development in this case because of the straightforward nature of the project. Section 1712-170 of the Municipal Code requires that staff review zoning applications in context of the approved comprehensive land use plan and provide a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council as to how the zone change is either supported or not. The Generation Casper Comprehensive Plan provides a future land use plan, which is found in Chapter 4 on page 4-26. The future land use plan is an illustrative plan that identifies the physical distribution of land uses and forms the basis for future zoning and land use regulations. The subject property is located in a transition area between an area designated as a neighborhood center and the area along Garden Creek designated as park and open space. Page 4-32 of the plan provides general characteristics of those areas, designated neighborhood centers, and typically includes low-scale commercial uses and supporting multifamily residential. Chapter 3 of the plan provides principles and goals, and several of those have been provided in your staff report for your review. Staff report also provides a list of permitted uses in the C2 district. Mr. Chairman, we didn't receive any letters for or against this project, and I have 5 exhibits to enter into the record. A is the petition for zone change. B, vicinity map. C, public notice sent to the Star Tribune. D, public notice sent to the property owners within 300 feet. And E, memo to the chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Exhibits A through E are accepted for the record. I now declare the public hearing open for consideration of case PLN 1926Z. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, the rules of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals who address the commission to approach the lectern, identify yourself, and please state your address. Would the person or persons representing case PLN 1926Z please come forward and explain the application?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Currents. I'm with Housing Solutions, the developer proposing Meadowlark Vista, and I live in Missoula, Montana, 2575 Clark Fork Lane, Missoula, Montana. First, I'd like to say by bringing this zone change, we're trying to follow staff recommendation to get out of the PUD to make this a more simple process for this development. Just a little bit about the development. It's a 49 unit senior development. Without going into too much detail about the building, it'll be similar to kind of what you see on the screen here. So it would be interior hallways, one building, secured entry, so locked doors. It'd have an on-site manager looking after the grounds and helping to lease up residents. An interior elevator, community room, kind of everything that you see in the packet that you guys got for this meeting. It'd be very similar to that. And as Craig mentioned, it's financed with housing tax credits, which you may likely are already familiar with. So Ravencrest, just down the road, was a property that was financed with housing tax credits through the WCDA here in Casper. So it would be, or it already has, I should say, received an award of tax credits. So that award was received in July. So we have the tax credits. The financing is will be soon in place, so to speak. I mean, the tax credits are the hard part, and we've got that. So we're ready to move forward. And this zone change is just something we are looking to do to make that process a little bit more simple to get out of the PUD. So that being said, this property would be rented income restricted, similar to Ravencrest and a number of other tax credit properties here in Casper. So that restriction stays on the property for 65 years is what we've committed to here at the WCDA. So that's enforced through a restrictive covenant that's recorded against the property. Our market study, of course, turned up a strong need here in Casper for this sort of housing for the seniors here. So, and this is all in the handout I think you guys got, but a 1.6% overall vacancy rate, 0% vacancy rate, in fact, in subsidized housing. So we're here before you tonight just to look into the possibility of moving out of that PUD and into C2 to just alleviate some of those review standards and the process that we need to go through with the city to do that. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Curtis?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Davis?
Is your, the square footage of your units, I see on here, it's 600 square foot for a single bedroom, and it looks like 762 square feet? Is that for the two-family, or two-bedroom?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, that answered my question. I
Yep,
wasn't sure those were the numbers that we were using here.
those are the correct numbers.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Wingeter?
I have a question, and it doesn't matter either way, because I think it's a wonderful project. But are some of these apartments going to be low income, that the residents can get federal government vouchers or something like that?
Yeah, so typically with vouchers, as you probably know, you have to hit certain payment standards to be eligible for the vouchers as a project. So these would be within those payment standards. There won't be project-based vouchers attached to the project, but anyone with tenant-based vouchers could certainly use them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. So some of these are going to be available for the elderly and the handicapped and
Yeah, so, yes, there will
don't
be.
have much resources. So.
Yeah, it will be age restricted, 55 and up. So it
Yeah,
will
I
be
read
for elderly.
that.
And it will have, I believe the number of units is for maybe 5 ADA accessible units.
Thank you.
Further questions for Mr. Curtis? Commissioner Frank?
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I have kind of relates to what he was asking. I was under the impression it's all pretty much income-based. So you're not going to be charging market rent on anything. It's all going to be income-based?
Correct.
Okay,
It's,
that's what I thought.
it's a little
Because
confusing.
it was confusing. I thought that.
It's very confusing.
So it's all income-based, depending on what, like 30% of their.
Yeah.
Right, so there's different rents at different income tiers.
Right.
And the rents are based on 30% of what that income would be making.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you, Mr. Curtis. As required by state law, we will invite people to come in favor of or in opposition to all public hearings. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak either in favor of or in opposition to case PLN 1926Z? Seeing or hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed and will entertain a motion to approve and forward to council a due pass recommendation to deny or to table case PLN 1926Z.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Wingeter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Feth. Discussion. Hearing none, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the applications in front of us. I would note on the agenda that since our last meeting, we had 2 council actions that were approved. We had zone changes 442 North Lennox and also 1014 Glenarm, both to C2. I would ask our council liaison, Councilman Hopkins, if you have anything else you wish to report to us or have any questions or comments. Okay, thank you then. Community Development Director, Ms. Becker, would you care to have anything that you want to share with us?
Commissioners, good evening.
Evening.
You received this week an invitation to Coffee Talk on October 2nd here in this chamber. That's a Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. And currently this week, our city manager and our mayor are back in Washington, D.C. meeting with our congressional delegates, but also with agencies, our federal agencies. We have some grants in play right now, definitely with DOT for a build grant to complete Midwest Avenue for $2 million. And so they're back lobbying. And they've gone with a group of contingents from Casper to do some lobbying back there with an agency that we've got contracted with to help support Casper in Opportunity Zone funding, which we've had coffee talks about Opportunity Zone funding. So they're going to meet, they also met today with the EPA. We have currently, that Mr. Collins and I oversee, a federal grant on brownfields that we have used to do phase 1 and phase 2's assessments in the old Yellowstone district. And we have done very, very well with the EPA. They're also meeting with the EDA on some projects that are in the Casper and Mills area, again, opportunity zones, and 2 other federal agencies that are in the Washington, D.C. area. So it's a full agenda. So when they get back, they're going to put together an update for Casper, and both gentlemen will present here that morning some of the opportunities and what they learned from our congressional delegates, as well as the meetings one-on-one with these federal agencies. So, pardon, I'm stuttering tonight, I apologize. So I think it'll be a very insightful, and we've got some great turnout already. Dee's gotten a lot of interest in that, but we would love to have our Planning Commission in attendance that morning, also joining council members. So I think that'll be a really good one. Again, looking at moving Casper forward through some of these unique funding programs that are made possible through our federal government. So again, I'd like to personally invite you all and let you get your RSVPs in on that. So any questions on that? Other than that, I know Craig's got a topic that Dee passed on to him, but we wanted to make you all aware that we don't have any openings at the end of this year from an appointment standpoint. You all are still able to stay on the commission. We're not having to open this up and publicize openings, but we do respectfully ask as staff that if any of you are wanting to leave the commission, hopefully not, to let us know, because we do have a publication period that we have to go through. But we would welcome again having all 7 of you. You are not up for reinstatement. You will continue forward. If any of you have had some different changes in your lifestyles and your personal plans, please let us know, because we would need to publish the opening, if that makes sense. So we would like to know in October at the latest if there's been any changes. Otherwise, we'll see you all 7, the Fab 7, back for another year of Planning Commission. Okay? That's my report.
I've got one question for you, or if you could share with us, even though it has nothing to do with planning and zoning. You had an interesting presentation at City Council earlier this week on the 2020 census, and just for information, and if you could share that with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
That on Tuesday evening.
Darn right.
Yes, I saw it too.
Oh,
I see some
very proud
bit
of
of
you.
honeys, just some wrappers.
See some wrappers. Those could have been from you and your granddaughter.
They could have been.
Yes.
Yes, I'm wondering though, if I'm driving around with Buzz, if I'm driving buzzed.
Yes. Question to ask. So again, on Tuesday night, we had an announcement with the U.S. Census Project kicking off. On October 2nd, that afternoon, of you all being here in the morning at 7 a.m., our Casper State Census Office opens up at sunrise. And what that means for all of us in Casper is that it is official. But for the last year, we have had our Complete Count Committee very actively working to promote the census is coming, and we'll kick off March 12th federally. But here in Casper, we do have the state office, again, located up at Sunrise, and I know Commissioner King and Commissioner Frank both are on that Complete Count Committee. And we have been getting out with our mascot, and he was here on Tuesday. It was here on Tuesday night, and Buzz is our mascot, and Buzz is a bumblebee, and that is with the theme of Be Counted. And we do pass out a bit of honey candies when we are out at public events. And my invitation to council, and they had their picture taken with Buzz, so that'll be on our Facebook page. And Buzz will be making an appearance at a Planning Commission meeting very soon. We just need to get a volunteer to welcome and come forward. But Buzz is for Be Counted. It's a fun mascot. We are having a lot of fun with Buzz out at the farmers markets and the community events, just to make the census and the whole process a little bit more friendly. A lot of national hype about the census, but really the 9 questions are very, very basic, and we talk about that in our monthly meetings. We have another monthly meeting this next week. So yes, Buzz was there, and all right.
I think one of the key points that needs to be stressed is that the community benefits the more complete count we have. Not only this community, but all communities benefit financially from federal funds and monies that are returned based on the census records. So it's very beneficial and important, not only from a legal standpoint to have the census, but to actually take part in it and get the information out there. So
I'm glad you reiterated that, because we started off talking about how we at the city use census data every day, whether it's population, any of the demographics that we get. So it is very relevant for federal grant programs that we proceed with. A lot of our, again, tax credit projects that you talked about tonight, based off of knowing what that low-income population is in Casper, strictly based off census data, is how we can do affordable developments here in Casper. So census data we use every day, but at the same time we do receive money as a municipality for each and every one of us that is counted, again, within the city. But again, it's countywide, it's statewide, but we are obviously in this room concerned with the Casper numbers. So we did kick that off with the city council. So
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Commissioner Fest, do you have anything from the OYD activities?
The Yellowstone District met on August 26th and got an update on the Midwest project, Midwest Avenue project. My understanding is that the portion from Elm Street to Walnut is going to be delayed, the work on that to be delayed until spring. We also hope to receive a grant for the work on the section from Walnut to Poplar, a build grant, which is, I believe that has been already submitted. On the state office building, bid for artwork is due on September 16th. I don't know.
That was done yesterday.
It was done yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
And they've awarded the contract to a contractor, so.
Okay, let's see. The work on the building itself is on schedule. Contract is for $35 million for the building and construction. That includes work for the main contractor and for all the subcontractors, at least that we know of so far. The Plains building is being considered for a retail entity and residential. And I believe that they've accepted the bid on that, haven't they?
That was postponed until October 15th.
October, okay. Yeah. The livery stable under the proposal will be torn down for parking for the residents. And this must be approved by the Architectural Review Committee. Okay. Work on that must be completed within 3 years. The build grant, the $2 million grant from the Department of Transportation, bids are to be awarded on October 12th, and Senators John Barrasso and Mike Enzi are very supportive of that, so hopefully a little political help there doesn't do any harm. Also, we talked about the WBC enhancement grant. This is for the riverfront upgrade going from across the river from Jonah Bank to K2 Radio. This is for cleanup, and it would be open to the public after the work is done. There's a $500,000 enhancement grant. A letter of support has been sent to the Business Council Board of Directors in Cheyenne. Also, they discussed some possible property activity in the old Yellowstone district. There is consideration of a hotel being built in the area. Probably the biggest drawback on that is that it would be restricted to 2 stories because the code for the old Yellowstone district requires that the view of Casper Mountain not be impaired. So that may or may not be a viable option in the long run. And then artwork along the Platte River Commons, considering for the area from the pedestrian bridge to the railroad bridge. And that, unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Feth. Very thorough report. Appreciate that. Commissioner Wingeder, anything on the Historic Preservation
Well,
Commission
the last
activities?
report, the last meeting, I went to, our planner had a report on the I can't say it. Say it for me. Plan, and how it's going to be presented, and you had some changes that he was going to do. And also, there's a group out there that's looking for the Wonder Bar sign. If anybody knows what happened to the old Wonder Bar sign, they'd like to keep it for, I don't know, because it's,
People that bought the Wonder Park have that sign.
maybe they want to hang it up at Johnny J's, I don't know, like the other side. But anyway, that's really what happened the last meeting. Wasn't much more than that.
Okay.
I do have a question, though, about the first agenda item when we talked, and I wanted to explain myself a little bit. You know, I'm all for business, expanding and selling and all that. And I know it was spot zoning of what you was talking about, but I was around when they, Ken Harrison and the city council first made that whole area. And they kind of wanted that to be a special district within the city. And, you know, I was thinking to myself, and forget about the two doctors being in the audience, but, you know, that's a very, when you have a colonoscopy, that's a very fine, you got to use your wrist and go around and all that. And what would happen if you had a convenience store right across the street, God forbid, that blew up about the time they were doing one of their procedures? I mean, stop and think about it. I mean,
Okay.
well, things do happen. All you have to do is watch the news.
Hopefully that's not what Dr. Katz is working on me.
Okay.
Well, anyway.
Are there any other issues from the commissioners that you'd like to bring forward? Hearing none, are there any issues from the public that you do wish to bring forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission that hasn't already been discussed? Seeing or hearing none, I'd note for the record that our next meeting is Thursday, October 17th at 2019 at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. And with that, I would invite Commissioner Frank to make a motion.
I would move that the meeting be adjourned.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wingett. All in favor, please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
Waiting on
Chuck wants
Chuck.
to stay.
Yeah,
What's that?
vote.
Are you going to vote for?
Or what'd you vote on?
We voted to adjourn.
To go home?
I want to stay here all night.
Okay, well then.
Well, we have a majority, so, all right.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
I was still thinking